Hey y'all, how are you? So it's been a while since I have come on and done just a Q&A type of video. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I was just running up the stairs and I'm out of shape. So welcome to the page. I am Julie Samaco, owner of Southern Charm Wreaths, where we make beautiful wreaths and teach you how to make and sell them. This is a Q&A. So I do this every week in my Success Circle business group, answering any questions that you might have. We do that once a week. We also do it once a month in our Wreath Making of the Month Club group. But yesterday I posted on my business page on my Facebook and asked if you had any struggles. And so I wanted just to come on here and answer some of those that I saw that would be interesting for a lot of people to, some struggles. And so make sure to comment below if you have anything that rings, if this rings a bell for anyone. Hey, Denise from Philly. Okay, so right off the bat, I was just going to say Belinda is looking for suggestions for a purple and white wreath. So one of the things you can do, Belinda, is just go to Pinterest and search purple and white wreath, and sometimes you get some suggestions. Now, whenever you go to search someplace like that, Pinterest or Etsy, you don't want to copy exactly, but sometimes it gives you some ideas on where to start. One of the comments that I saw yesterday on the post was Lily's Wreath Designs. She said, going live while she creates, that she has a hard time having to go live, like I'm doing now with you guys, when she doesn't feel good. There's a lot of stuff that's happened here in the States in the past year, well, all over the world with COVID. But then, we've had a lot of stuff happen in the United States that's been very hard on a lot of people. And whether it's, you've lost a loved one or a family member is sick, sometimes we lose our jobs. My husband lost his job. That's kind of what catapulted me to jump all in to my wreath business. It's hard to put on a brave face, but I think that if you understand that when you go live, the people are watching you are people too. They're human beings as well. They have the same struggles we have. They have dealt with loss. They have dealt with depression, and they have days that they don't want to get out of bed. And for me, I do look at it as my job for my wreath business. And there are days that I too would like to stay in bed, or I do suffer from depression. So there are, good days and bad days. I think just be honest with your audience that, you're not having such a great day, but you wanted to serve them. And I think a lot of people will really understand that. I don't necessarily think you should get on a live and cry unless you're revealing something that is very personal to you, but would be also very impactful for your the community that you're building with your brand. You could share something like that. But they're human and we're human, and there is nothing wrong with just putting on a brave face and going to work. That's the way I look at it. The other thing is, let's see. I did see a lot of comments about people how to handle when somebody comes back and says that your prices are too high. Anybody else get that response whenever you put the price out there, or if you're at a craft show and they say that, or you mention it to a neighbor or somebody who wants to buy from you, that it's too high? I think a lot of times we, as the makers, right, of what we're trying to sell, actually we put so much heart and soul into it that when somebody tells us that they can't, that's too much, we take it as that we are price gouging or that we are not worthy of it. I mean, we put a lot of negative thoughts in our own head, when in actuality, when a customer says that's too high, that just means that it's too high for them. Okay, that it's not too high for the world. You know, it's not too high for people who can afford it. It's just too high for them. And if you have been getting a lot of that, feedback lately, you might want to pay attention to where you are marketing. Where are you trying to get your products out there? So, a lot, sometimes it's on Facebook, sometimes, and we can't control necessarily what type of, how Facebook feeds the algorithm and sends certain people to our pages. But you just have to, the price is the price. You don't go into a shoe store and haggle with the pricing, right? It's the price is the price, and just say all prices are firm. You can have some things like that. But I think for the majority of the people who would buy from you, the customers that would afford your designs, they would never say things like that. The other thing you can do is just do a quick search on Etsy for the wreath style that you're doing. So for example, if you are making a Deco mesh wreath, you can go to Etsy and search Deco mesh Easter wreath. And then I want you to sort the price from high to low, and then find the price point of where you're trying to sell. It will either give you an eye-opening that you are priced too high, or majority of the time it's your price too low, or maybe you're right in line with the price. So you can sort of use Etsy as a tool to help you. All right. Don't discount yourself for pricing accordingly. A lot of times we feel bad when we go to price our items because it's not something we would necessarily buy for ourselves. I understand that. That's why I started making my own to begin with, is I couldn't afford what I actually wanted. But there are so many people out there spending a couple $100s on wreaths. I meet them in my own area, which is a rural area. So there are people out there that will. You've just got to find the right people. You've just got to find your ideal customer. So, all right, I'm just going to. So Kimberly says, doesn't matter where you're from, your wreaths are horribly expensive, which, like I just said, it's horribly expensive for her, right? Not for my customers. So that's one thing that you have to keep in mind when you get that feedback. All right. Some other questions that I've had were coming up with designs. Okay. So sometimes we spend a lot of time, and I used to do this in the beginning as well. We would spend a lot of time and energy trying to figure out what design to do. We feel like we have to make every design different. And I just interviewed in my Success Circle group, Jenny. Her name is, she owns Jenny's Wreath Boutique. I don't know, I'm sure some of you have seen her on Etsy and on YouTube. And she is one of the successful wreath sellers on Etsy, making multiple six figures. And she makes a lot of the same wreaths over and over again. So if you find something that you have been creating and it is getting a lot of views and a lot of questions and interest, and maybe you've put it on Pinterest and it's getting a lot of shares, that's something that's very popular. So don't hesitate to make something that's similar or exactly the same. Etsy prefers actually if we list items in multiples. So in other words, instead of making one wreath, we make, 5, 7, or 10 wreaths. Does that make sense? So don't think that you always have to start fresh with a fresh idea. Sometimes you can make the same wreath and then just change out the color of the focal flowers, and you've got a whole nother look, but it's the same wreath. And it just saves us time and energy of trying to create something new. The other one I had a question on, or a lot of people seem to be stuck with, excuse me, is how to combine colors, like how to pair colors together. And the way I like to do it and the way I started was to look at your focal piece. Now, if your focal piece on your wreath is a sign, you look at your sign and what are the 3 colors in that sign. So if it's 3 colors or 2 colors, whatever they have in the sign, if I would choose the colors from the sign and start there. So if there's 2 main colors in the sign, look at those 2 colors, and then feel free to pull out a color chart. Find the colors on the chart and see which ones complement, what other colors complement those 2 colors. And a lot of times the signs will have more than 2 colors, and just pick 3 colors from that sign. And then all of your flowers and your ribbon can be pulled out from the colors of the sign. If you're not using a sign, you can choose a ribbon. Sometimes we choose ribbon that has multiple patterns, multiple colors. So you can choose coloring from there as well. So it's just be open to new color combinations. You can also just go to Pinterest and do a search for color palette with pink. If you're trying to find a good color combination with using the pink, you could just search color palette with pink on Pinterest, and it'll give you some of these color palettes that will go well with the pink. Okay, let's see. I'm going to look over and see if we have any. All right, here's a question. So Janet's asking on YouTube, how do you find the wreath making trends? How can you get it earlier? So what I like to do is I like to travel to market. So market is where wholesalers are pre-selling orders to the retail space. So if you can make your way there's several throughout the United States. If you can make your way to Atlanta, or if you can go to Dallas, there's one, I think, in Las Vegas. I believe there's some showrooms over in the California area too. But if you could go someplace to what they call a market, you can go through the showrooms that are already displaying items for sale for retail. You don't even have to buy. If you have a lot of times it's open to the public. Some of them you need an actual wholesale license or a resale license or sales and use tax license. Those are all 3 called the same thing, or 3 different names, but the same thing. You could go to these places and just do a search or scan or a view, and you sort of get a design trends. If you go from showroom to showroom and they're all like big lemon displays, you're like, well, lemons are going to be popular this summer, which they are. So you can sort of get some trend ideas that way. If you are not necessarily, one who likes to go in the future so far, and you're just doing stuff for your own home and you're trying to figure out what a good trendy thing would be, just head over to your local Hobby Lobby. A lot of times places like Hobby Lobby or Michael's will put some trends together in the displays of their own stores. Let's see. Here's a question. Should we have free shipping on wreaths? So this was another question that we brought up today in our Success Circle membership group. This is a personal preference, okay? So it really is you decide what's good for you. Let's be honest that nothing is free, right? It's not free to anybody when they have free shipping. No one. Somebody's got to pay for the shipping. And when we're a small company and we don't ship as often as these larger companies, we don't get such a great a break on our shipping, do we? So, and then when you add into the fact that we're shipping large wreaths, it just sort of balloons that rate a little bit or a lot. So one of the things that you consider for your shipping is that if you do free shipping, the shipping has to be calculated into the price of the wreath, right? So get an average of shipping. And one of the things I teach in my Success Circle group is to just go out there on UPS, USPS, FedEx, wherever you want to go, and put in random addresses. And in my group, I actually give the actual addresses, not the names of some customers, but some items that I've shipped to, so that they can put an address in from the Texas area, from California, from Virginia, from, you know, the middle of the states, the East Coast, West Coast, all around. And if you put in about 6 different addresses, you can sort of get an idea of an average price, say for a 24-inch wreath, and then maybe for a 20-inch wreath, and then maybe for an 18-inch wreath. Once you come up with an average price, then you know how much to either increase the price of your wreath in order to, you know, have free shipping, or you know what to add into the price of the wreaths for paid shipping. Now, a lot of times, for me, example, I'll take that and I'll divide it by 2, and I'll pay half and then put the other half into the wreath price. So it's really up to you. There is no really right or wrong way. Etsy does say that they favor shops that do offer free shipping. So there's that. Do I offer free shipping? No. But again, that is a personal preference, up to you. Where do you get most of your greenery? Most of my greenery I purchase wholesale, but you could try Greenery Market. Greenerymarket.com does have I buy a lot of from there too. They have a lot of really good quality greenery. Just ignore the Karens on the page. I do. All right. Julie, I live in small town. People here think my wreaths are too high. My prices are a lot lower than buying online. I'm not selling. Would like to know how to go on Etsy. So Lucy, we do have an ebook. I think it's under $10, and it does help you to get started on Etsy. So Etsy, if anybody is wondering what Etsy is a marketplace. It's a great place if you sell handmade and you want to start selling your items online in the online space, because like Lucy says, that a lot of people in her area are saying that it's out of their price range. When you go to other areas of United States, it's not out of their price range. So you're really reaching a larger audience. Does that make sense? When you take your items and you sell them online versus like a craft show, not to discount craft shows at all, but just, you could try Etsy. It's very simple. Just go to Etsy.com, create an account, and then you're going to click Start Selling. We go through a lot of steps in our Success Circle group, step by step on how to do it, but also we've got a quick start ebook on our website at southerncharmwreaths.com to just get started. It's like a $10 pamphlet on just getting started. Let's see if there was any other questions. So Teresa's asking, how do you take amazing photos to show your items? I just recorded training for this in my Success Circle group. What we do is, I prefer to use my iPhone. It's not the latest and greatest iPhone either. In fact, I have that and I haven't even opened it. It's been sitting in the box for a couple of months. I haven't had time, but I just use my iPhone. I prefer to take my photos outside on a door. So when I take my photos of a wreath on a door, it shows the buyer the size, right? A lot of times if we take a photo of our wreath that's displayed on a mantle, or let's see, sometimes people take photos of their wreaths on the interior doors, which are smaller than an exterior door. So when I take a picture of my wreaths on an exterior door on the front of my home, it really gives the buyer, an idea of what it will look like on their own door. So I like to take it outside. I wait until the sun is not directly on the wreath and casting a lot of shadows. So it's sort of a filtered sunlight, if that makes sense. So the front of my house faces the morning sun. So therefore, I wait until about 1 o'clock. Now we're in the winter, around 1 o'clock, and then the sun is more overhead or a little bit behind my house. I can then go outside, take really pretty pictures. And I know a lot of people think, well, it's in the shade, but that's not true. It's just filtering. It's just filtered because the sun is behind. It's still a lot brighter and better clarity than if you use artificial light. So there's that. If your house does face the setting sun, which was my old house, I would just wait. Do it first thing in the morning, like around 10 o'clock. So the sun is up, right? Full up, but it's not directly on the door. That's what works for me. If you don't have a door, let's say you're not proud of what the door looks like, and believe me, I have been there too, and you don't want to paint or do anything like that, you can always just stand with your wreath, get your child to take a photo or a spouse to take a picture of you with you holding your wreath. I've seen Etsy sellers hold the wreath closer towards their feet, between their knees and their shoes, and just hold it there in your hand, and the buyer gets a perception of how big the wreath is. How many of you have gone to buy something online and you get it and you're like, well, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is either too small or too big than what I thought. So it's imperative that when we put our listings out on Etsy, our website, Shopify, Amazon, wherever you choose to sell, that we put one photo that definitely shows the item as if they were going to display it in their own home, giving the buyer an idea of scale. Do Etsy send a W-2? So I do love Etsy. I try to keep all of my sales for my pre-made items on Etsy, and they do. So for Etsy, I believe you have to sell $20,000. I could be a little wrong on this. You can always Google it. But if your shop sells $20,000 in a year, they will issue you a 1099. So I got one in the mail. All I do is keep it and I give it to my accountant, or if you're due TurboTax, you would report it on TurboTax. If you don't get a 1099 from Etsy, I encourage you to still report your income on your taxes. You always want to run a business of integrity, and that means reporting any income that you have. And that's, I feel very strongly on that. So even if you don't get a 1099, you should definitely report your Etsy income or your Square income or your craft show income, wherever you're bringing in your income for your handmade business. Now, but Etsy just emailed it to me, and then also I might be able to download it. I haven't looked. Trying to understand this. When you use ribbon, does it have to be wired, or will ribbon without wire work? So Kimberly, it really just depends on the design that you're going for. You can make bows, really pretty bows that are with ribbon that are non-wired. However, anything that you want to put in your design that has a little lift, like ribbon streamers, loops, things like that, you want to have a ribbon that is wired. Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. Let me decline, if that makes sense. So I prefer wired ribbon, but it's completely up to you on the project that you're trying to create. How do you measure your wreath for a box that you want to ship? So you just take the measurements of your wreath, and then I like to come in about 2 inches on each side. So it does like squish it a little bit, which has been fine. And then that's how I measure. Always come down as low as possible on your wreath in your box, because remember, dimension matters for shipping prices, meaning that the box is, length times width times height. All of that matters when trying to determine your shipping. So you want to make sure that it's in the smallest box possible without damage, as well as the shortest box possible. Yes, our Success Circle membership group is open to new members. I was going to see if we can, I don't think I can link it here in this, but just go to howtosellhandmade.com is the vanity URL. So howtosellhandmade.com to learn more about our Success Circle group. Howtosellhandmade.com. StreamYard does not let me link it. So she is from Alabama. Don't know of any markets like Dallas, right? So I would find the closest one. So for me, my closest one is Atlanta. So I just get in the car and make a day of it, or Dallas, and I have to fly. Vicki likes Craft Outlet. Do you have any other shopping sites such as Shopify? I do have my own website, but I only use Etsy. So if I'm selling a wreath, you have to go to Etsy. All my customers have to go to Etsy in order to buy a wreath. The only thing I sell on my website is digital products, training, join my Success Circle group. I have my blog. You can join my mailing list. Things like that are housed on my website. But other than that, I use Etsy for my pre-made wreaths. For me, Etsy is it's just better when you're getting started because it's a marketplace. Like Etsy customers are coming to Etsy all of the time, millions of them, and they're looking for something to buy. So you have a better chance of getting found and in a buyer's view versus if you set up your own website, which is Shopify. Shopify is not a marketplace. Shopify is a website. So you will have to drive 100% of the traffic to your own website. And you can do this by setting up really good search engine optimization, really good keywords, making sure your photos are optimized for the World Wide Web, things like that. And if that sounds way too hard, just head over to Etsy and go there. That's what I like to do. But that's all I've done. I have not done Shopify. I feel like nothing against Shopify, obviously, if I had, a lot of products, a lot of SKUs, I probably would go to Shopify and create a shop there versus Etsy. But for my wreath business, I haven't had the need to do that. So what is the difference between your mastermind and your inner circle? Oh, that's a great question, Linda. So my mastermind is more in depth. We do one-on-one coaching. So I will talk to you on the phone once a month and make sure that you are staying to task on your business goals. And we review any questions you might have, or maybe you need something a little bit more in depth training on. We just do that one-on-one, as well as we have our group call, which is with just the group. So it's a very small group, and we do it through a Zoom. So we can share our screen, we can see each other, we can talk. It's really like having a chat with business buddies. That's the way I look at it. A chat with business buddies that you can ask questions to your peers, people who are trying to accomplish the same business goals or similar business goals as you are. Because let's be honest, sometimes our friends just don't get it. Our spouses don't get it. Our brothers and sisters and moms, they don't get it, how hard running a business can be, or some of the challenges that we have, such as trying to juggle it all, especially if you're in a 9-to-5 job, you come home and you're trying to run a side business, and they don't quite understand that you have a dream and a burning desire inside of you that you're trying to fulfill for this world. And they're just like, don't get it. So we have a bunch of great ladies that are actually, we've had men before, but so far we only have ladies this year. They're helping and encouraging you and giving you feedback. It's also got different training that we do in this from the Success Circle. It's just different training. How do you store your pre-made wreaths? I now I have a warehouse. Before I stored them in my garage. We had a beam in my garage that was a support beam for the house that we were able to attach a little like peg kind of thing that we could hang them on. So I would hang them from there on clothes hangers. And then the other thing I would do is I had my Wreath Towers, and I show you how to do that on my website, southerncharmwreaths.com. And if you just search display, the word display, it'll give you instructions on how to create your own Wreath Towers, just taking the wire shelving and zip tying together to make sort of a little tower, and you can hang them all the way around the tower. And I think I would put 9 wreaths on there, not counting one I could lay flat on top, and then I could hang lantern swags around those. So I would have 3 of those in the garage, and then I would have my bar going across from end to end of the room. The other thing I've done is just like I find an empty room in the house and store them that way. So that's the ways I've been doing it. And then as I was able to build my business up, I then started to rent a storage building. So just a little storage building that I was able to put my pre-made wreaths over there. And then, if they sell, I would just go get them. It's just like 5 minutes down the road. How many wreaths do you make to sell when you post that one to sell? So every maker is different. Some wreaths I just make one of. Some wreaths we make one just for the photo, and then I remake as the orders come in. So it really is up to you. There have been sellers who, every seller is different, so it's completely up to you. Thank you, Miss Kim, for sharing the video. I do appreciate you. Let's see. So the different classes I offer. So I do the Wreath of the Month Club group, which teaches the art of wreath making, and we do have a little bit of selling in there as well. We have our Q&A once a month. I don't hold back from that. And we offer 8 videos of training of discussing the art of wreath making. The other one is our Success Circle group, which is business. So I help you to figure out Etsy, how to figure out social media, how to use Pinterest to drive traffic to your Etsy shop, how to create an email list, how to market on your email list, what to write on your email list, things like that. And then we have our Mastermind group, which is a little bit more in-depth training and one-on-one with me. And then we just have we have ebooks and things like that. And then I have different retreats that we do, small group. So our Wreath retreat, for example, is coming up in April, and it is just like 30 of us getting together. I'm just starting out and feeling overwhelmed with where to start with buying supplies on a limited budget. So it's so funny that you brought this up. I just interviewed in my Success Circle group the Etsy seller that I was talking about, multiple or 6-figure earner. She's selling wreaths on Etsy, and she shared with us that she started with a very small budget, and she went and bought one grapevine wreath. And I thought it was a brilliant idea. She just did one grapevine wreath. She went and made the wreaths, but she didn't hot glue anything in, and she was able to take photos and list them on Etsy without actually creating the wreath. And she made like 10 listings. And I thought that was really cool. So that to me is a very smart way of getting your feet in and trying and testing the waters. Of course, when the item sells, you're going to have to make the item, but then you then have some money to reinvest into your business and then go buy some more supplies, or at least another one to replace that one. So that one is that's kind of interesting. We do have supplies, vendors. And if you go read any of my blog posts on how to make things, like a teardrop swag or a Christmas wreath or whatever, I always list where I buy supplies. And you can sort of get an idea of where to go look for some supplies. But the I think you definitely need to have a budget when you're creating your business. You don't want to buy too much. I feel like there's a lot of I don't want to say a lot of it, but a pitfall for some people who are just beginning is they tend to overbuy on their supplies before they figured out how to market and sell. And then they're struggling with trying to earn back the money that they spent in supplies. So for me, I'm the reverse. I'm like, start small and figure out the Etsy thing and figure out where you're going to market and how to do that before you really dive deep into supplies. How do you sell t-shirts on Etsy? I use Printful. This sounds really detailed. Let's see. I use 14-inch circle wreaths, and I'd like to know how to create Deco mesh wreaths with 10-yard by 10-inch rolls. What happens now is it's too poofy, and I'm not sure how to do the math of how much Deco mesh to use. So okay, so if you're using a 14-inch circle and you're creating your own work wreath form, you're going to have to just play around with it. Like use a 10-inch roll of mesh as your test and play around until you get something that you like. Typically, the pipe cleaners or the twist ties on a work wreath form are 5 inches apart. So maybe that will give you some like guidance on where to add your pipe cleaners on your 14-inch wreath so that you can measure out. But really, I would just test it until you find something that works, and then write down that formula so that you can use it over and over again. Lori Ann, hey girl. Highly suggest if you are serious about building your business. Thank you, Miss Lori Ann. So Jill, we have all of the pricing is on our website. If you go to southerncharmwreaths.com, click on shop, and we have everything there. Do you need a computer or laptop to join your creative group? No. So one of the things that we do for the creative group, the Wreath of the Month Club group, we do, you don't even need a Facebook account. We've got so many people, actually a couple hundred people who are in the group and they're not even on Facebook. So we create the video and stream it on our website, which is privately, we have password protected website. And we also stream it live into a Facebook group. So if you have access to Facebook and the group, you will be able to watch it from your phone. The other thing that a lot of people like to do is stream it to their smart television. So it's not necessarily on their phone, it's now on their television. What do you do with the wreaths that do not sell? Excuse me. That is a great question. I just store them until they sell. I don't deactivate them on Etsy. I'll leave them up. You'd be surprised at how many people in the middle of summer will buy a Christmas wreath, and then how many people in Christmas will buy a spring or different seasonal wreath. So I leave them listed on my Etsy shop, and then I store them until they're ready to sell. Did you build your own towers? Yes. They're just made out of the wire shelving that you go buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, and I use zip ties. Is it still you making the wreaths, or do you have others making with you? I just make my own wreaths, but my business structure has changed a little bit since I started wreath making. So I am not necessarily a mass producer of wreaths, if that makes sense. Where if I have actually been thinking of hiring somebody to come make wreaths so that we can, have more inventory in our Etsy shop. Right now, I'm mainly a teacher for handmade businesses as well as learning the art of wreath making. So I don't, and I don't have anybody helping me. Again, if you don't worry about hiring people to help you until you need that. Oh, a lot of times people think we kind of overthink like how to handle, like, what if this happens? Like, what if, for example, one of the things I've heard people say is that, they're trying to get started and they're asking me questions like, well, what happens if I can't keep up with the demand? And I'm like, let's like slow our horses and then just get started, get established. And then once you can't reach the demand, that's when you need to start looking at hiring. And then you really have no problem because you've got the money coming in from your business that you have had for a while. It's consistent, and you know that you can do this. And the more help that we can hire in our business, I feel like the better that we can grow, if that makes sense. So shipping delays on wholesale. The only thing, Miss Peggy, hey girl, she's in my hometown or in my area. I haven't heard anything regarding the fourth quarter, but we've had a lot of delays for spring orders, spring supplies. So I just don't know if it's going to be a trickle effect, but it could. If some of you've gone into your local craft stores and noticed a delay or a slight, supply, there's not as many supplies. It could be that's because of the shipping delays for everything, and shipping is delayed with COVID because it was, common across the ocean to get to us. And so it's just, I have not heard anything about fourth quarter. I've only heard for the spring right now. Is it worth it to do craft shows? I do believe it's worth it to do craft shows. I have heard of people doing thousands of dollars on a weekend. If you are the type of person who's outgoing and you pick the right craft show for you and your niche. Okay. So make sure that you're going to craft shows that are tailored to handmade crafters and not have a lot of the multi-level marketing people there, which, is what is that? What would be some multi-level marketing stuff? Like jewelry, lip scents, not to say anything wrong with these companies, but, and all of those companies that have, teams to be on them. If you have a lot of those people in with your craft shows, it kind of muddies the water a little bit. People who go to craft shows and have only crafters selling tend to do better with their craft shows. And finding one that's really good in your area. In my Success Circle group, I teach you exactly how to find craft shows in your area so that you can, do better. You need to research the craft show, make sure it has a history behind it, that it's not new. Those people, the ones that are really new, tend to not do as well for vendors. So I would make sure that you've got one that's well established, one that does a lot of marketing on its own, and it's not just you trying to market to get your followers and customers to your booth, that they do their own marketing. And I think that is that's been helpful to other people that are doing craft shows. So we do offer a discount if you're in the Wreath of the Month Club group and then the Success Circle group. There is a discount. We have a tutorial on shipping in both of our groups where I teach you how to ship. So Norma, the wait list is, we still have a wait list for our Wreath of the Month Club group. It's going to be opening up this spring. Oh, great question, Maureen. Do I ever redo a wreath? I do not. Over the years, I have learned that there is a buyer for everything. And the reason I know that is because I would look back at the wreaths when I first started selling. They're not really to the quality, not quality. They were always good quality and quality constructed, but they were not designs that I like currently make now. And when I look back, and how many of you are like this? The first wreaths that you make, you're like, what was I thinking? After you've been doing it for a while, it's the same thing that I would look back for on my wreaths that I sold then, and I thought, why did somebody buy that? I do not know, but it's still sold. And so I realized that there is a buyer for everyone, and everything that you make can be sold. So I would say not to stress over redoing unless you don't have any more money to invest in your product line in order to create more, and you need to add more for spring. You might want to see, oh, well, here is an evergreen piece, meaning an evergreen wreath is one that can be sold year round. Well, if I just add a Valentine's bow on that, it's a Valentine wreath. Or if I just add a summer bow on that, it's a summer wreath. Does that make sense? So I would say I would more likely add something a little bit more to it that would make it the season that I'm trying to sell. And, you know, like I said before, if you don't want to hot glue things in, you could just do it until you take the photo and then list it on Etsy. How do I sell in Facebook? Oh my gosh. Okay. So there is something called Facebook Shop that you could use. I have been looking at it, and every time I go to look at it, my eyes get cross-eyed, and I'm like, what am I looking at? And then I'm like, I'll just go back to Etsy. It's so much easier for me. Now, that's what I do. I like to use Facebook to build my brand, my reputation, a community around wreath making. Anytime that somebody wants to buy from me, then I send them to my Etsy shop, or I send them to my website. I personally don't like selling on Facebook, but there are a lot of people, wreath makers and sellers, who do like to sell on Facebook. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just what you prefer to do. But a lot of you could try setting up a Facebook shop, but I've not been able to figure it out yet. The Atlanta market is called, y'all, somebody help me with that. I can't remember it off the top of my head. How many hours do you work on your wreaths to turn out? So a wreath for me takes about 30 minutes. Let's see, should I price the wreath to cover the shipping and list it as free shipping? Yeah, we've talked about this. That's completely up to you, Tiffany. So you do you, like you do what you think is good. I would suggest that if you already have an existing Etsy shop and you want to make changes, instead of doing the whole shop, which to me, I think you should just test and measure. So I would, if I were making the change, I would just test it with a few of my popular wreaths in my shop instead of the whole shop. If I was going to make a change like that, just sort of test and measure, and always let it ride for 30 days or longer. So if I were going to say, let me offer free shipping in my shop, I would pick 3 to 4 wreaths in my shop that are already popular, and I would make sure that those were free shipping, and then I would let it ride for 30 to 60 days to see if there has been any sales that come in from it, or more views, or that type of thing. Yes, Success Circle is different from Mastermind. So Mastermind is more in depth and one-on-one and small group. It still has training. It also includes a subscription to Success Circle. So Mastermind includes Success Circle. Did you hire someone to set up your website? And did you manage all your social media yourself? You guys, are y'all enjoying this? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm in the hot seat. I hope you guys are enjoying this. You're like picking my brain. So I never had this when I was started, and I just thought it would be good to pick somebody's brain every now and then. Okay, so did I hire? So when I first started, I did everything myself. I did my own website. I did my own blog post. I did my own social media. I did everything myself. And as I grew my company, I was able to hire and bless other people and other families with the success of my business. I think if we could ever grow to our businesses to where we can glorify other families, and bless them with what we have been given, to me, that's just so much just beneficial for everyone. But I did do it all myself. So I also, you have to keep in mind that when I started, we didn't have Pinterest, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have a lot that we have now. And even then, I was overwhelmed. Even then, I thought it felt like I was drinking from a fire hydrant. So I can completely understand how when somebody's starting a business now, you don't know where to focus your efforts because there's so many options available. One of the things that I teach in my Success Circle group is to really understand who your customer is. Where are they? Where do they shop? Where do they hang out? What magazines do they read? Getting to understand your customer and what problems they struggle with, then you have a better idea of where to focus your efforts, what content to give them, how to help them, how to serve them. A lot of times somebody will say to me multiple times, well, can you make this wreath without this? Or can you make this wreath smaller? If I get a lot of that, I'm like, well, why don't I just start making the smaller wreaths? You know what I mean? Or, you start getting some feedback like that. So I did all of it myself. Again, back then I just had my Etsy shop. I did build my own website. But now I outsource that. I would suggest that you focus. So going back to knowing who your customers are, that's how you know what social media to start with. I would start with the social media that you really love, because once you love something, it's easier to understand and learn it. But also, Pinterest is, to me, it's a little tricky to understand Pinterest, but once you get it down, it's just so beneficial for your Etsy shop. So you just pick a couple of places and just focus on that instead of trying to do all the things. Have you ever been in a 9-to-5 job and your employer, I was working for an investment firm, and bless his heart, Alex was a great boss, in my opinion. He would bring me like this and this and this and this and this, and I would like trying to get little things done. But until I started being able to like block off, okay, I'm not even going to touch this stuff until I get this done. It's the same thing with social media and our handmade business. Focus on one at a time so that you learn the ins and outs of it. You learn how that algorithm works for that platform, how to position what size of the photos they like, how to talk to your customers, how to build an audience. Once you learn that one, then you can move on to the next one, and learn that one as well. So if you're trying to do a lot of things at one time, you won't feel like, and you won't get the traction. And if you don't get the traction, then you don't feel that sense of, you don't get that win, right? So that's the way I look at it. I feel like you should just focus at one thing at a time to get traction in your business. How do you sell on Facebook Marketplace? I believe you just go to Facebook Marketplace and list something to sell. Can you pay monthly? Yes. So Wreath of the Month Club is, you can pay monthly. Yes. Let's see. I was looking, do you have to have a business license? If you to buy at market, you have to have a sales and use tax license from your state. Go to your state's Department of Revenue and look for a sales and use tax license. America's Mart. Thank you, Peggy. That's the name of Atlanta, America's Mart. Oh, thanks, Lily. Y'all, Lily is killing it. She is starting, she is actually doing YouTube videos in Spanish or Facebook Lives in Spanish. It just is in awe of something. I just in awe of her. Dallas Market is called, what is Dallas Market called? Y'all, I can't ever remember the names of these places. Dallas Market Center, World Trade Center. That's what I think it's called, Dallas Market Center. Okay, I'm looking, I'm scanning the questions, and I know I'm going to miss some. Okay. Do you do craft shows when you started? I never did craft shows. One of the things I have always done is analyze. Does that make sense? Sometimes overanalyze, but I do like to analyze. How much time is it going to take me to make the product, to get to the craft show, like to have enough inventory? You can't just show up with 5 items, right? You have to have an inventory of what to sell when you get to the craft show. And so I'm like, okay, how much time will it take me to make my inventory? Driving, setting up, sitting out there in the sun, chatting with people, which I am not good at. I'm an introvert. So making small talk, and then, packing up and driving home and doing it a couple days or one day, whatever. And for me, I call myself a lot of times a lazy worker, and it really isn't that. It's more that I try to figure out what's the smartest way, like what's the easiest way in order to make the biggest impact. And for me, I'm not saying for everybody, I know there are people that have made thousands of dollars at their craft shows. And so I don't want to discount anybody doing craft shows at all. But for me, in my business, it just didn't seem a good fit. I felt like I was better putting keywords on my Etsy shop and listing things on Etsy or my website. And so I just always went that route, not to discount anybody who wants to do craft shows. But for me, it just wasn't a good fit for me. Yes, if you signed up for the wait list for the Wreath of the Month Club group, you will get an email when we open up the group. Okay, so if you're, as long as you've signed up, you are definitely on the wait list. Space in our Wreath retreat, we are fully booked for our Wreath retreat. We'll let you know if we have any spaces. I want everyone to be healthy when they show up. So if anybody is not able to make it, we will open it up to those people on those waiting lists. There is business training in her Wreath of the Month Club. I've watched your Etsy 101 class and it helped me immensely. Plus, we can ask questions and Julie is great about answering. Oh, thank you. How do you store your completed wreaths? We answered that. Julie, what greenery should I put in? Okay, what greenery should I put with white magnolias? You can use magnolia leaves, yes. I would do something a little more airy. Also, so you can, for me, this is one of the things I teach in my Wreath of the Month Club group. I like to do 3 greeneries for texture and for color interest. So magnolia leaves is what I would like to do. I'd probably do some boxwood, and I would probably do an airy grass. Those would be the 3 for me that I would choose. Let's see. You are welcome, Olivia. Wreath Retreat is a in-person event I'm hosting here in the Columbia, South Carolina area. I teach hands-on wreath making, and we're going to be doing wreath making. It's a make and take, so they'll make 4 items, 2 wreaths, 2 arrangements. It goes into a lot of detail about the principles and elements of design of wreath making, and so it's very it's plus we get together with a bunch of, to me it feels like girlfriends. We hang out, we sometimes go shopping, and sometimes we go to a restaurant to eat out, which we've done in the past. This time we're staying at the hotel so that, you know, just to be safe. We're just going to be safe and hunker down into the hotel. Thank you, Laura. Some of these questions are very long, and I'm having a hard time scanning them because of my, you know, over 50 eyesight. I can't wait for Wreath Makers Live. So if any of you are new and you're like, what is this wreath woman? We also hold our annual Wreath Makers Live event, which we host. We're hosting 400 people. We're limiting actually to 400 people. We cannot do more than that, so that we can socially distance. It's going to be in Dallas this year. We're going to be holding it in the end of July. Head over to wreathmakerslive.com to come join us and hang out with other wreath makers, learn how to build your wreath making business, and get some design tips and tricks from some of the pros some of the pros. There's so many out there in the industry. So one of the things that people ask me a lot is this question about mesh. In my opinion, it's not that different for me. I usually just work with whatever there is. The high quality mesh tends to have more of a foil woven through it. It could be a jute thread woven through it. Value mesh is just like basic mesh with no colors. It's just one color, and it's no patterns. It's no extra anything woven in, you know, that type of thing. Just joined your success circle. I've got the Etsy guide. I'm trying my best to mull through it. Which do I do first? So one of the things, this is what I was actually writing out before I got on my call, was we're refocusing the path for success in the Etsy group. I mean, in the success circle group. So for me, I really feel like once you get established as a business and you have your business name and you have created your Etsy shop, focus on your Etsy, making sure you know how to take photos, you know how to do your keywords, and it gets to be really like second nature. And then you would implement 2 things. One would be you decide which one to do first. One would either be Pinterest to start driving traffic to your Etsy shop, and then the other one would be email marketing. So those to me are the 3 things I feel like anyone could do and have success. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Pinterest. If you don't want to do Pinterest and you hate Pinterest and you love Instagram, by all means, go over to Instagram. But for me, Pinterest is like Google. It is a search engine. And so people can go on Etsy, on Pinterest, and they do this right now. If they're looking to buy something, they head over to Pinterest. At least my customers do. My customer base. That's the demographic for Pinterest. They will go over to Pinterest and they'll start researching on what to buy, and they start clicking over to our Etsy shops, and that's how we can get found. And so to me, Pinterest is easier than Instagram. Instagram takes a little more work to get found, but there has still been a lot of Etsy success stories where I hear people are, build up their Instagram accounts and it's driving traffic to their Etsy shop. So either one will work, but I suggest doing one. And then your email list is very important. All right, let's see. We've discussed pricing already. I think I've gone through all the questions, y'all, and I'm looking over. A lot of people said they struggle with bows. Bows was one of their struggles. If you go over to southerncharmwreaths.com, search bows. I have got a lot of tutorials on making bows by hand, making bows with machines. So go over to southerncharmwreaths.com. We've got a lot of tips over there. Somebody mentioned that they suffer with perfection. I want you to understand that perfection can be very detrimental to a small business. When we try to be perfect, we waste a lot of time and energy when there is never such a thing. There is never perfection. We will never get that. So if you can just release that and let it go and do your best. And there have been times when I would make wreaths in my Wreath of the Month Club group, and I'm like, well, that didn't go well. I mean, not well in that the video was a flop, but in well that it didn't come out of my head the way I expected it to be. And then it would be like their favorite tutorial of all times. It's just the weirdest thing. And if I had tried to make it perfect to fit my brain, it wouldn't have resonated with them, if that makes sense. So perfection will never be accomplished. And so just let it go. Do your best, move on. Don't stress it. Let's see, I'm looking through those questions really quick so I don't miss any. We've already talked about picking out how to pick out colors and ribbons, and flower placement is, I teach that strategy in the Wreath of the Month Club group. We've talked about pricing and selling. I mentioned Etsy. So I think I've gone through most of the questions that were on the post, and I hope you found this useful. Let me know if you want me to do this frequently or more often. Give me a thumbs up. Make sure to follow and like me. So if you are on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up on the video, and also follow here on Facebook. Okay, you guys, I hope you have a blessed rest of your week, and then I'll be chatting with y'all later. Bye.